you're the diehards, right? They're sticking around. Yes,
That's the afternoon.
absolutely. These are
Is
not
this on?
yet.
Are these
No,
on?
They're coming on.
I can kind of hear it now. Okay,
Coming
well,
on,
thank you all for staying. My name is Jordan Mattox. I'm on the board here at the Fresno Philharmonic, and I'm so excited to be able to spend some time with Tito and Karen talking about musical life, the music that we heard today, and a lot more. And so the plan is I'm going to ask them a few questions, and then I'm going to take this microphone around to you all, so you get a turn to probe them with your musical thoughts.
Probe away.
Yes. So I'm going to start with Karen. So Karen, I grew up in a household of music, church music. My grandfather was a choir director, and so what was impressed upon me was the work that vocal music takes. Many people compare vocal artists to athletes, breath work, all those kinds of things. So I would love for you to share with us what it looks like behind the scenes to prepare, the kind of work that it takes, because you work across a lot of genres, and that must take a lot of work on the the backside.
Oh yes. So briefly, I always say I was trained like a racehorse. As an opera singer, you have your blinders on, you work countless hours and hours to be able to make all these big sounds that carry over the orchestra without a microphone, right? And so my whole life I always wanted to be an opera singer. And I secretly sang recital and concert work. I love chamber music, I love all that stuff. But as an opera singer, you can't really tell anybody that you love anything but opera. You know, it's a kind of a thing. It's kind of a thing, right? And I'm sure in the instrumental orchestral it's kind of sort of the same.
We've got our versions of that for sure.
Absolutely, yes. I'm sure. So somewhere along the line, I guess when pandemic happened, and we were sitting at home and everything, I knew opera wasn't going to come back faster than anything else. And I devised this plan to have this whole other career where I would do chamber music, recitals, because the smaller venues were easier to come back. And so then the things that I was doing secretly, I was able to do out loud. And so, and the curating and all the things that I loved and I'm passionate about, new music and, collaborating and all those things. And so what happened is that I got to really flex my muscle and really use other parts of my instrument and my voice. So, and it helped in the opera singing, the soft piano, the high singing, the low, all those things. And it really required more control, more discipline, more strength in other ways. And I feel like it's helped me become a better musician to be able to do so many other things.
Fantastic. Tito, I love Fancy Free because of the genre influences that are throughout it, pop, jazz, classical, all in one piece. I'm curious about your influences outside of classical music. If I were to, if you will, spy on your Spotify, what would I find on your playlist?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't listen to a lot of music outside of work, but growing up, I grew up in New York City, and growing up in New York City, I was a violinist. I still am a violinist, I guess. I haven't really, but I did it professionally and in New York, and as a professional violinist in New York, similar to a lot of the musicians here in Fresno, the Freeway Philharmonic situation where they're playing in a lot of different orchestras. We have that similar kind of thing in New York. But in New York, it's also so varied. There's so many different things going on. And so I played in a lot of different I played a lot of jazz. I played Latin music. I played played on Broadway, all sorts of different things. And so already I kind of had that influence in me anyway to be able to do different kinds of things, different genres. Of course, just playing in a lot of classical orchestra. Leonard Bernstein was very similar in that way, actually. He'd had his toes in so many different things. And as you heard, there was like the Cuban danzón, that one with the little woodblock. There was a lot of jazz. He also stole a lot of music. There was for example, the danzón movement is straight up stolen from Copland. Copland wrote a danzón cubano, and it's almost exactly the same. And then the waltz variation is very much Stravinsky. There are a couple of moments that were very, very Stravinsky. There was one chord that everybody plays that is completely stolen chord from Till Eulenspiegel, Strauss. He did a lot of that because he was so young. He conducted. He loved all these different kinds of music, and as a young composer, he was definitely incorporating all of that into his work.
Karen, what you're doing when you're singing is you're also telling a story. I'm curious how you think about that. What's your philosophy of storytelling through your vocal music?
Yes, that's a beautiful question because there was a point where I think in my maturing that I realized that it is all about the story. It is less about producing sound and more about singing text, right? Like that is the beauty. And that's what I call myself now, a storyteller versus like all these categories, lyrical spinto and all these things that don't mean much at all, really in the grand scheme of things because it is just me telling story and painting. And I have to say, okay, so you talked about genres. So I grew up in Philadelphia, born and raised in the inner city. I grew up on soul music, Motown, R&B, hip hop. I love hip hop. If I could rap, if I had 16 bars, I would be bad. I tell you. But I can't, but I love, all kinds of music. Country I love, all the things, but I grew up in the essence, and I really feel like that carries the way that I sing as well. Very soulful, very, expressive, and all those things, outwardly expressive. So, and also it is all story, like all blues, jazz, R&B is all about story and text. Gospel music, hello, like you were talking about, it's all about just the story, and all vocal music, because it would be instrumental if there was no singing, no text. And so
I feel like the Barber also lends itself to that so much because it's such a beautiful and poignant. And what do you for this particular piece? I know you've done it before, but you're coming back to it. What changed from when you first did it and to now?
I grew up and realized that the words were more important. Like, you have your vocal moments, right? It used to be all just about voice and putting voice out there, which is more work than actually just singing what's on the page and using the moments to expand the voice, but also bring it back. So I think the maturity. But when you're young, you're like a puppy with big paws. You're just gonna run across, the field, and that's not really making music,
Tito, what's it like to conduct with a lead vocalist that's right next to you? How is that different than conducting some of the other pieces you did today?
Well, when it's somebody as good as she is, it's really easy, actually. It really, because one of the things that I was talking to the orchestra about during the rehearsals was exactly what she was just talking about storytelling. It comes through in the way she creates words. And every time that she forms a word, you can hear the rhythm of the word. You can hear the rhythm of the text. You can hear the rhythm of the line. The way a singer breathes through a note. You can hear it all. It's so obvious if you listen for it. And so that was the thing in the rehearsals. It was more just getting the orchestra tuned to that, being able to hear all of that. And then once you get that, and especially when the singer is actually doing the storytelling and doing it so well, it's so easy. It's actually really wonderful because then you can just kind of float and you can just listen to what she does, and the accompaniment is so much fun. Actually, I love it so much.
I gotta give Tito a shout out because, with the first rehearsal and we were working, trying to figure it out, and it had been a long time. But when he was speaking to the orchestra about that very thing, it made me go kind of relax a little bit, because oftentimes conductors don't talk to their orchestras like that. They don't talk about word forming and vowel forming and line when it comes to vocal. And I was just like, the first rehearsal, I was like, damn, he's good, and then working with him and how we eased into it, and we free, like today, I really felt like we were in Sieme, with everything. And I have a level of respect because it makes it easier for me to do my job when I have a maestro that respects the art of vocal, singing, which oftentimes is not a thing. It's all about the orchestra, and we're kind of like here. You're like, hi, I'm here, like making these sounds. But at Tito, it's very easy. I look forward to working with you many times on other things.
We will. We just met like 2 days ago. So
literally.
This is, yes.
I know you flew here from France to Fresno, to be with us today. And I looked at your upcoming schedule, and I will say I got secondhand jet lag just by looking at it, all the places you'll be traveling. Can you talk about what do you learn about the world of classical music by traveling the world, conducting it?
Oh, that's a good question. Two things. One, we're all the same. It's amazing when I go even to places where I don't speak the language. If I go to China, for example, where most orchestras don't speak English. They might know the numbers. They'll certainly know the Italian things that we all learn, like the piano, forte, crescendo, all those things. I can jigger a phrase to communicate with just those words, and charades, and it'll work. But ultimately, once I lift my hand and start, it's the same. It's the same anywhere. You know, that's the kind of thing that's really fascinating, is that, you know, I can go to anywhere in the world and we're all playing the same thing. We're reading the same notes. It's the same language, essentially. But in that, there are certainly different sort of cultures, workplace cultures is maybe the easiest analogy, because orchestras are essentially a workplace. And, you know, so they're, of course, as you can imagine, if any of you know The Office, the show, orchestras are the same. They're all the same. Same personalities, same people, same. And so,
Are you Michael Scott?
I am Michael Scott.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
I am Michael Scott. I am Michael Scott. And no, but in the end, that's really what it is. It's wonderful, actually. That's kind of the thing that makes it the most interesting, is sort of the sociology, the psychology of, you know, learning different personalities and seeing what makes an orchestra really vibe, and what you know. And you can tell a lot from that first meeting, that first time reading through something. You can really read the room and see what's going on. And you don't know. Sometimes as a guest conductor, you just show up and, you know, it could be a really wonderful vibe, or they might have had a labor dispute right before I showed up, and I had no idea, and all of a sudden I'm feeling the remnants of that. You know, you just never know. And so then to kind of assess what's going on, and try to make the most of whatever those few days that I have with them. You know, it's a challenge, but it's a really fun challenge. And so going to the different places all over the world, it's similar, actually. That's maybe the thing that's kind of the most interesting.
Okay, last question before I pass it off to the audience for their questions. Karen, I love opera. What's your favorite opera to perform?
Tosca.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down. That's
Why
the
is
one.
Tosca your favorite?
It has everything. It has drama, it has passion, you get to kill the baritone. You know, you have a beautiful, gorgeous aria in the middle of all this chaos that everyone knows, you know, to Visitarte, you know, everyone knows Visitarte. And at the end, you have the love duet, and then you throw yourself off of the top. You kill your own self. So it has everything. My husband does not like Tosca. He doesn't like any of the roles I sing. All the the Verdi and the, he's like, he loves new music. But he always says Tosca's like chocolate cake with chocolate chips and chocolate icing. It's just too much. And I'm like, well, that's why we love
There's
opera.
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I love that.
Nothing wrong with that. But
Now I'm hungry. So I'm going to bring around the microphone. Please raise your hand if you have a question. And I would love to hear from you all.
This isn't about music, it's about your dress. My gosh, you had 5 of us in the bathroom going crazy about your dress. We loved it. And then there was a gentleman sitting behind us who said, I want some bell-bottoms out of that.
you know, it's interesting. You know, that's the thing. When you sing more concert room, you need more gowns, right? And with opera, you're costumed. And so I'm scrolling through Instagram one day, and I saw that dress. And I said, I'm going to buy that dress. I know that dress would look good. And so I debuted it here. So. And Eagles. Go Eagles. We just won, Philly.
Yes.
Thank you. I was truly impressed by the fullness of your voice and the way it carried. It was just beautiful. But I was also impressed, and I didn't know quite what to expect at the beginning, because we most often see a conductor working with a baton in a philharmonic, and I wondered how this was going to work out, and it worked out wonderfully. That opening note, chop, and the way you used your fingers in the lighter phrases, it's beautifully done. I really
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It just shows you don't need a baton. You don't need
Yeah. I actually, it wasn't even, I didn't even think about that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually the audience perceives it more than the orchestra. The orchestra usually they're not even looking, so it's fine. It's fine.
I wanted to thank you for the beautiful performance. You really painted a gorgeous picture. What do you have lined up for your next performances?
Yes, so the next performance is, let me think. I'm going to I got nominated for a Grammy this year, and so yay! Yes. So I'm going to the Grammys in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, a week. I still don't even have a dress yet, so I'll figure that all out. But my next performance, I am doing a recital. This year, I am the artist in residence with the Lyric Opera of Chicago, and I do 4 community outreach recitals this year, and this next one is titled Dream Variations / Alina, Nina, Tina tribute / my Jesse Norman tribute. This year is her 80th birthday. And so Mark Markham, who has traveled the world with Jesse Norman for 25 years, who's a dear friend of mine and a coach.
Mark. I know Mark
Oh,
very
Mark
well.
is
He's
brilliant.
The best. He's the best.
He's the best. He's the best. I called him and was like, I want to do a Jesse Norman tribute. And so we curated this incredible recital for me, which we will be doing in Chicago. And then after that, I do 4 last songs. And then Strauss's 4 last songs, and then that takes me into April, and I don't know what I have to do now. April's like next year in my brain, but lots of African Queens. So I curated this evening of a recital with all 7 composers that honors 7 African queens throughout history. I premiered in Ravinia, Aspen, Santa Barbara this year. It goes to the Kennedy Center in March. How could I forget about that? We do a tour. I'm doing a tour. Kennedy Center, 92nd Street Y in New York. Nashville Symphony is taking it, but just for a recital, not for the symphony. And then Toronto, we land in Toronto recital. So as I have a very active recital concert career. It is my passion. It is what I love to do. I love opera as well, but I love to be able to sing in a weekend and go home for 3 days and then go back out. So very busy spring. Queens, yes. Don't tell anybody, but next season it's getting an orchestral premiere. So it's a recital for piano and voice, but we had an orchestra want to commission the orchestral version because the composers are so incredible and the stories are beautiful. So we are doing a condensed. I'm squeezing 28 minutes. They wanted it to be 20. That's a whole other conversation, but squeezing out
Just
20.
do it. Don't say anything.
Don't
Just do
say
it.
it right. Just tell them. So there will be an orchestra, and maybe Fresno will take it. You never know.
I wanted to thank you both. It was just a fabulous
Thank you.
concert. Just all of it. It was wonderful. And whoever picked the numbers, was that you? Did you pick them? The pieces?
Stephen and Ray and
It was a wonderful.
and you had something to do with it as well, didn't you?
A little, yeah.
It was a wonderful mix. It really was, and we really appreciate it. I have a question though for Maestro Muñoz. In the Bernstein, the tempo changes. My God, how did you ever figure those out? How did you master them? How did you not go? I mean, it was just amazing. How many different meters?
It's a lot. It's a lot of turning on a dime, But it's actually, we have it all there. It's all kind of written. You just have to do a lot of practicing and be ready for anything. And the orchestra is fabulous. They were able to do it. We don't have a lot of rehearsal. We got to get it together in such a short amount of time. But it just shows how the professionalism, of the orchestra. They were able to do it. So that's what makes it so much so enjoyable for me. Is when I go to a new place and Fresno, California, and such an amazing orchestra here. It's really wonderful, wonderful.
Karen, can you talk a little bit about Beyond the Years?
Mm-hmm. Oh, Beyond the Years. Yes, so Beyond the Years is my Grammy-nominated album. Beyond the Years is all unpublished Florence Price songs. And I don't know if you, yes, she was a brilliant American composer who was kept out, because of sexism and racism at the time. And everyone, she had this beautiful resurgence in 2020, 2021 in the orchestral world, but still her vocal music is pretty well, pretty unknown. My friends went down to Arkansas and to the library and dug out all of these scores. There's 150 songs that are unpublished. And
And they were just found in this house, right? They were found in this house that somebody bought, and they were just remodeling it, and they found a box of this stuff recently. And then they didn't know what to do with it, so they saw it was music, they didn't know what it was, and they happened to be the University of Arkansas, and they have a Florence Prize, scholar there, and they were of course pleasantly shocked to find all of this incredible music that they were now able to have in their archive.
Yeah, it's amazing. When I was going through the scores that we were able to get. Well, what happened was they became in public domain in 24, at the top of 24. I recorded the album in the summer of 23, knowing that they would be available in public domain in January. And Michelle Can, who was a brilliant pianist. Yes, Michelle's brilliant. She is she is responsible, I think, for getting a lot of the piano concertos out. She didn't get a chance to record them with the Philadelphia Orchestra, but she recorded them virtually. And she's a dear friend of mine, and so I got together with her and with some friends of ours, and we raised money to make this recording. And I had to learn the songs in like 3 months because the recording, it changed, and the engineer couldn't do it, and Michelle couldn't do it. And I had to learn, actually 2 months, I had to learn like 22 songs. And we wound up recording 19 of them, and none of them are spirituals. We were really intentional about that because so many people know Florence Price from her spiritual arrangements, but not for her songs that, to me, rival Schubert and Schumann and Brahms and all of the, Rachmaninoff and all these songs that we know that are just pretty standard rep that this woman was writing at the same time that like Ravel was alive and all of these composers. So hopefully this is volume 1 of many other volumes of her music, because it is just wonderful, and not just for the voice, for the piano, because she was a pianist and organist, and so you have to be elite to play Miss Price.
Yeah, for Florence Price, it's interesting because she didn't have a lot of opportunities to write orchestral music to get it performed. She had a couple of symphonies. She has a piano concerto that we know of, and they were able to get a sketch and a rough arrangement of it that's been recorded. So she spent a lot of time writing for the voice and writing for the piano, and so her development as a composer, you see, it's such an incredible development. I mean, some of the later stuff is so good, and Michelle does these recitals of all her piano stuff, and it's so good. I'm kind of shocked every time I hear something new of Florence Price. I'm like, how on earth did we not know about this woman until now? It's just incredible. So anyway.
And streaming on all platforms.
There you go.
And you can buy the recording on Amazon. And those things matter. And we have the album, if you order the album and you get the booklet, it has all the text in it, and it has some historical things. It's we were intentional about ensuring that it was more about Miss Price than it was about us. We are just vessels for this beautiful music. So.
Well, thank you for staying tuned with us. Let's give Tito and Karen one more round of applause. And we will see you all in February.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.